Welcome to ACC Position U, the show where we examine which ACC school has the best tradition at each position. Today, it's the quarterbacks. We have a terrific panel of experts to help us decide which school will be designated as Quarterback U. But before we meet them, let's look at the criteria that we have used to determine the finalists. First, we look at how successful the players were in college. Second, how high was their NFL draft position. And finally, we looked at their NFL career. And since the makeup of the ACC changed over the years, we considered all players from a school's history, whether they played in the ACC at that time or not. And while the players from the last 20 to 25 years are fresher in our minds, we didn't limit our selections to just the recent past. There can certainly be arguments made for several other schools, but based on that criteria, we narrowed it down to 4 schools as our finalists for quarterbacks: Clemson, Florida State, Louisville, and Miami. Now let's meet our esteemed panel to debate the merits of each of our finalists. Roddy Jones was a 4-year starting running back at Georgia Tech and is now an analyst on ESPN and the ACC Network. David Teal has covered the ACC for many years and has been named the Virginia Sports Writer of the Year 13 times. And Bryant McFadden is a former Florida State Seminole who went on to win 2 Super Bowls for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Thank you all for being here. We really appreciate it. Let's start with Clemson and begin with you, Roddy. Who do you think of right off the bat when you think of Clemson's quarterbacks?
Well, you said that the guys who are most recent are fresher in our minds, and this guy is the most recent for Clemson. It's Trevor Lawrence. I think you have to look at the entire career that he had. He came in much ballyhooed, #1 quarterback in the country by some services, and there was a lot of expectations for Trevor Lawrence, and he more than lived up to it. By the time he was coming out of college, he was looked at as a prospect in the same way that John Elway, Andrew Luck, and guys like that were looked at, these top-tier quarterbacks in the NFL. He set a number of Clemson records. This is a guy that finished second in the Heisman Trophy voting his junior season. His last season won a national championship as a true freshman, taking down the vaunted Alabama team that was looked at the time as one of the best college football teams that we had ever seen. And then you look at what Trevor was off the field. Through the offseason, before the 2020 season, the social injustice issues, the issues with the pandemic, he was a leader in all of that. Never got in trouble. Proposed to his now wife, Marissa Mowry, at the time while he was in college. The maturity that he showed, the leadership that he showed. And by the way, the dude could sling the football. So Trevor Lawrence is absolutely the guy that comes to mind first when I think of Clemson quarterback.
Yeah, I think that's so well said. He made the transition from high school to college seamless, maybe better than anybody that we've seen in the game as of late. David, how about you?
Katie, I think you can make the argument that if not for Taj Boyd, there would not have been Trevor Lawrence at Clemson. If you ask Dabo Swinney to this day, who was your foundational recruit when you first got the head coaching job, he will tell you it was Taj Boyd. The first 5-star signee that he landed out of Phoebus High School in Hampton, Virginia, where I saw him win a state championship. And in 3 years as a starter at Clemson, he signed there in 2009, excuse me. And in 3 years as a starter there, won more than 10 games each year, set an ACC record for career touchdown passes, and led the Tigers to bowl victories over not only LSU, but also Ohio State. I really believe that Taj was the forerunner to Deshaun Watson, Trevor Lawrence, and today DJ Uiagalelei.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, without a doubt. Brian, who comes to mind for you?
I have the right answer. I have the only answer. David, you're right about Taj Boyd. He jump-started this quarterback conversation for Clemson. But you know who not only jump-started but actually passed Taj Boyd when you talk about prolific quarterback play at Clemson? Deshaun Watson, Mr. Michael Jordan. Dabo Swinney kind of compared him to Michael Jordan when he was coming out of Clemson getting ready for the NFL draft. This is a player who always had the it factor. Highly touted player coming out of the state of Georgia. Instantly when he stepped foot on the football field there for Clemson, you saw a difference maker. He was a playmaker. He won a championship, ACC Player of the Year, have so many conference records under his belt. And then not just dominated on the collegiate level, going to the NFL, getting the opportunity with the Houston Texans and proving that he's one of the best quarterbacks in the National Football League. He is a transcending type of player at the quarterback position. He can throw, He can run. He has the intellect to be able to rip you apart mentally, and he's just the ultimate competitor. I never had an opportunity to play against Deshaun Watson at Clemson, but I can tell you this much. He still drove my blood pressure extremely high watching him go against my beloved Florida State Seminole. And I was so happy when he finally left Clemson because I felt like we had a shot because he was one of the best quarterbacks that I see play not just college football in the ACC, but college football in totality.
That's how you know, Bryant, when somebody makes your blood boil, that they're very good at what they do. Well said. Great picks across the board. That wraps up our look at Clemson. The next contender, Bryant might know a little bit about them, the Florida State Seminoles. We'll be back looking at them on ACC Position U. Welcome back to ACC Position U and our look at the quarterbacks. The next finalist we'll look at is Florida State. David, let's start with you. What Seminole quarterback stands out in your mind when you think of the legacy down in Tallahassee?
Instantly, Katie, it would be Jameis Winston. Entering the 2013 season, the ACC had gone 12 consecutive years without a top 5 team. And then onto the scene burst this redshirt freshman quarterback on Labor Day evening against Pittsburgh on the road, his first college game. All he did was go 25 of 27 for more than 300 yards and 4 touchdowns. And by season's end, he is the Heisman Trophy winner, and he has Florida State in the BCS championship game, the last one of those. And the Seminoles defeated Auburn in an epic game where Jameis took them down the field and threw a late touchdown pass. And then the following year, carried the Seminoles to the inaugural college football playoff. Winston is a 2-time ACC Player of the Year, #1 pick of the draft, and now he's Drew Brees' heir apparent with the New Orleans Saints.
Yeah, he is, which I think we can all agree that we were thrilled to see him make that comeback in the league, winning that starting job down in New Orleans. Now, Bryant, you got a closer look than most of us. Who comes to mind when you think FSU quarterbacks?
You guys see the excitement on my face as I talk about Florida State. You feel it? I know you see it, but you probably feel it
We
also.
see it.
No question. My guy is also a 2-time ACC Player of the Year, 1992-93. Charlie Ward revolutionized the quarterback position during a time where offenses were more generic, slow motion, ground and pound attack. But instantly when Charlie Ward stepped in the lineup, they went to an up-tempo, no-huddle style, 4 wide receivers, just slinging it everywhere on the football field, not to mention the athleticism that he provided from the quarterback position. He won a national championship. He won the Heisman in 1993. He was a consensus All-American in 1993 as well. One of the best athletes to ever play the quarterback position in football, not just college football, but you can take that to the next level, to the NFL. One of the best athletes to ever do it. And because of his athleticism and how talented he was, he never played in the National Football League. I think we all would agree if he wanted to play in the NFL, he would have been a highly drafted player. But he decided to take his talents to the NBA, where he had an outstanding, lengthy NBA career as well. One of the best quarterbacks to ever do it in Tallahassee, my guy, Charlie Ward.
Talent that transcends multiple sports. Just remarkable from Charlie Ward. Roddy, what say you?
Okay, Bryant talked about one dual sport athlete, so I'm going to go with another, a guy who did it sort of the opposite of Charlie Ward, and that's Chris Weinke. He also completes the triumvirate of Heisman Trophy winners for this Florida State crew, all ironically with the last name starting with the letter W. Chris Weinke is a guy who came out of high school and decided to go pro. He was drafted by the Toronto Blue Jays, went and played minor league baseball. Bobby Bowden told him at the time, whenever you want to come back, we'll have a scholarship waiting for you. And boy, did that pay dividends, because at the age of 25, he decided to come back to Florida State and was absolutely fantastic. The year 2000 was a Heisman Trophy winner, obviously ACC Player of the Year, wins a national championship, ends up being a 4th-round pick. And there was a lot of talent around Chris Weinke, but they needed someone to distribute the football. And we think these 7th-year seniors that we're getting this year are old. Chris Weinke showed the maturity and the poise that you would think a guy who has been pro come back and was an older player would do. But let's not forget about a couple of others that came a little bit later before Jameis Winston, and that's Christian Ponder and E.J. Manuel, both first-round picks. And at the time E.J. Manuel won 12 games from Florida State, it had only been done a handful of times before him. He was the only quarterback taken in the first round of his draft, so got to put some respect on the names of Christian Ponder and E.J. Manuel as well.
E.J. Manuel owes you dinner for that shout-out, Roddy. Well done. That's it for the Noles. When we come back, we're going to take a look at my alma mater, the Louisville Cardinals, and in the NC State Wolfpack, Johnny Unitas, Roman Gabriel, Lamar Jackson, Russell Wilson, so much talent to get into when we come back on ACC Position U. Welcome back to ACC Position U. We have two more schools to consider in our look at quarterbacks, Louisville and NC State. Bryant, let's start with you. Who set the standard for the Louisville Cardinals?
Well, when you look at the architect for generational-like quarterbacks for our generation, I got to go with Teddy Bridgewater, and here's why. When you look at Louisville quarterback production, they weren't getting top-tier-like talent, especially from the state of Florida. Teddy Bridgewater is a four-star recruit, highly touted. Miami, Florida, some of the who's of who in college football was knocking on his front and his back door. But guess what? He said no to take his talents to Louisville and transcend that entire program in the right direction. Instantly became a big-time player for their university. Didn't start day one as a freshman, but he eventually jumped into the lineup, became the Big East Rookie of the Year. Big-time player at Louisville, put up outstanding numbers, extremely consistent with his gloves on, throwing deep routes, post routes, slant routes, and eventually became a first-rounder to the Minnesota Vikings, where he was the Offensive Rookie of the Year. So he just didn't dominate and put Louisville on a national stage on the collegiate level. He put Louisville on a national stage when it came to the professional level. And guess what? Old Teddy Two-Step is still doing big things. Now the starting quarterback for the Denver Broncos, I really do believe he has exceeded the expectations many people set for him, getting drafted to Minnesota in the 30s, being able to overcome that outstanding, devastating knee injury, and still is a relevant name in the National Football League. Like I said, he was the architect for my generation. When you talk about prolific quarterback play at Louisville, Teddy Bridgewater is my guy.
We called him Teddy Two Gloves, and you know what? He's a great football player, but he's an even better person, so that's why he's easy to root for. Roddy, how about you?
All right, now Bryant laid out the guy who laid the foundation. I'm going to take it to the guy that accelerated it at a rate that nobody thought was possible, and that's Lamar Jackson. I'm serious when I say this, guys. There has not been a single player in college football history that has been more exciting to watch than Lamar Jackson. When you look at what he did, winning the Heisman Trophy, a two-time ACC Player of the Year. Just Google Lamar Jackson highlights from Louisville, and you'll know exactly those runs, the jump at Syracuse, the spin against Florida State. Sorry, Bryant, but that was a vicious spin going in the end zone against Florida State. Just provided excitement each and every Saturday. Then he goes to the NFL. Bill Polian saying he should be a wide receiver, and all he does is become the NFL MVP. 1,200 rushing yards in 2019, most ever by a quarterback in the NFL. He also led the league in passing touchdowns that year as well. The dude is absolutely incredible in college, has been a great pro, and will continue to be for the near future. They're building a statue of him, and they don't build statues for just anybody, so it's Lamar Jackson for me.
He'll join a statue that's already on the grounds at the University of Louisville. David, give us a history lesson, please.
I would be more than happy to, Kate, because this one is personal. And by the way, there's also a statue of Johnny Unitas in Baltimore in front of the stadium where Lamar Jackson plays today. I'm a child of Baltimore. I grew up there, and Unitas was my boyhood idol. And on January 3rd, 1971, yes, I remember the date, I shivered in the upper deck of Memorial Stadium with my father, watching Unitas quarterback the Baltimore Colts to the AFC Championship over the Oakland Raiders, and then a couple of weeks later win Super Bowl V over the Dallas Cowboys. Unitas played both ways at Louisville, and then, sorry Bryant, with that Steelers jersey in your back, the Steelers made the greatest personnel gaffe in their history by cutting Unitas in 1955. allowing the Colts to pick him up, where he pioneered the 2-minute drill, and in 1958, quarterbacked what is known as the greatest game ever played, the Colts' overtime victory over the New York Giants at Yankee Stadium in the NFL championship game, the first nationally televised game in professional football history, and the first sudden death game.
I love it. Thank you for sharing that, especially since it has a personal connection to you. Let's turn our attention to NC State now. Roddy, we'll start with you, and I think maybe this guy is an easy choice.
He's a slam dunk, Katie. All these guys that we've talked about from the quarterback position, statuesque, 6 foot plus, look great in the pocket, getting off the bus, it's the guy you want. But I'm going with the guy that chalks one up for the short guys, and it's Russell Wilson. First off, he came down to Bobby Dodd Stadium and torched the team that I was on, the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets, in 2010. But you talk about accuracy, incredible mobility, and the ability to drive, the competitiveness to just prove people wrong. At NC State was playing baseball and football. That didn't sit well with a lot of the coaches. They wanted a full-time football guy. He goes to Wisconsin. I know we're talking Position U for the ACC, but his career at NC State was good enough to get him to Wisconsin, where he had an excellent year there as well. Then goes to the National Football League. He's a fantastic quarterback for the Seattle Seahawks, one of the top 5 quarterbacks in the league. Has had a great career, and always, I like to throw out, he's barely 5'10", so for us guys that are a little bit vertically challenged, he's waving the flag.
Yeah, he proved that it's possible for littler guys. I love it. David, who comes to your mind?
Roddy, I'm going to go with the antithesis of vertically challenged, especially given the era in which he played in the early 60s. Roman Gabriel was 6'5", at a time when quarterbacks just weren't that big. And there's only one NC State athlete who has been the 2-time ACC Football Player of the Year, and that's Roman Gabriel. He was a top 5 draft choice of not only the NFL, but also the AFL, and he went on to play just more than a decade for the Los Angeles Rams. He was a 1969 NFL MVP.
Bryant, how about you?
Yo, Katie, you said Roddy had an easy answer. I have the easiest answer. When you talk about NC State quarterback play, it's only one man you got to talk about. This is where you start and stop the conversation with this individual, Phillip Rivers. Listen, I played against Phillip Rivers in 2003 in Doak Campbell Stadium, and you guys know back in those times, Florida State defensively, we were a stout, confident group. He ripped us apart. He tore us apart from start to finish. I think he almost had 400 yards against our defense that had a bunch of NFL pros on there, on that side of the ball, by the way. Phillip Rivers, let me read some numbers to you. 2003 ACC Player of the Year. First in ACC history in career passing yards, over 13,000. Second in ACC history, 95 career TD passes. Second in ACC history, passing yards per game, just over 270. First in ACC history in passes completed in his career, over 1,000. 1,087 to be exact. Well, he kind of slowed down when he got drafted. He was only the 4th pick. Come on, Phillip Rivers, he was only the 4th pick. But don't forget, he was actually a higher pick. But Eli Manning didn't want to go to San Diego, so they kind of finessed the system. Phillip instantly became the 4th selection to the San Diego Chargers at that time. And oh, by the way, he will be a Hall of Famer. Not only one of the best quarterbacks I played against in college football, when you talk about production and arm talent, but also one of the best trash-talking quarterbacks I've seen ever. Phillip Rivers.
Without a curse word, too. Without a curse word.
Without a curse word. And he's a pretty good high school coach, by the way, is what I'm hearing.
Yes, he is. Yes, he is. We started this episode all on the same page. We were supportive, and then we got to NC State, and they got a little contentious. You guys not agreeing with one another, which makes me really excited for what's to come, because we've now all made our cases. Which school will you guys choose as ACC Position U legacy for the quarterbacks? That's next when we return. Welcome back to ACC Position U. A quick review of the criteria. We considered college careers, NFL draft positions, and NFL careers. So now, the moment of truth, what I have been waiting for. Who does our panel think has the best quarterback legacy in ACC football? Roddy, start us off, please.
All right, so I kind of had a choice here. You know, obviously you could have gone Clemson, you could have gone Louisville to play to our host and what she would like us to say. But I'm going the other way with one of the panelists. His alma mater is Florida State. I mean, you're talking about a school that's got 3 first-round picks since 2000 at the quarterback position, 3 Heisman Trophy winners, some quarterbacks at quarterback teams that are in the forefront of our memory, transcendent type quarterbacks. Charlie Ward could have been an great NFL player, but decided to go play basketball. So I have to go with Florida State because of the combination of the Heisman Trophy winners, the first-round picks, and just where those guys stand in the forefront of our minds overall.
Settle down over there, Bryant. I can see you nodding that head. David, come on, talk to me here.
Something tells me this is going to be a unanimous decision by the panel, and I will agree with Roddy on Florida State, but I would add one thing, guys. What is the one major criteria that we judge quarterbacks on? Winning. And what did Chris Winkie and Charlie Ward and Jameis Winston do at Florida State? They won national championships. Not only did they take home that stiff arm, they won national championships. And to me, that is the difference here that makes the Seminoles QBU.
Yeah, they had the will to win, certainly, which, all right, I can agree with that. I'm on board. Bryant, are you going to stick with your alma mater, or are you going to go rogue?
It's not April, so I'm not going to fool you. No question. When you talk about naming your top 3 players at a position for a university, and all 3 players won the biggest trophy that goes to college players in the Heisman, that's the first legit argument in your favor right there. And then they all won a national championship as well. That's it. Case closed. Mic drop right now. Florida State is quarterback U in the ACC. Florida State is quarterback U in college football. I might be a bit biased, but I don't care. I embrace it. I understand it. But we all definitely see things the same way here. So I'm not biased when it comes to this particular argument. ACC football, Florida State is quarterback U.
This is a first on this show, ACC Position U. We have not had a unanimous vote, so well done to you 3. Great analysis, great stories. We appreciate it. That's all for quarterbacks. Tune in next time when we tackle another position on ACC Position U.